in this season. Here's one of them, Charles Leclerc. So impressive last year in European Formula 3. Took 4 wins at venues, 3 of which are at venues that we're going to visit. Car number 27 as Fuoco wrestles the car, lining up the rear tyres. We saw a car spin, and he is well placed. We ride on board him. On board with him, the last car to take his position off. On board with the man who's currently in the lead of this race by 0.6 of a second, and here's how he got there. Immediately, Hughes knows that he needs to go on the defensive, and so Leclerc jinking to the inside, and he's already into the lead. It's such a long run down to turn 1. He was even able to go defensive on board with Antonio Fuoco in the Trident. Getting rid of a tear. How casual was that? You've got cars spitting up dust in front of you, and he's getting rid of a tear off at the start. Absolutely bizarre to see that. As we saw Tunjo going into turn 1 too hot, Fukuzumi just about avoiding contact with Jorg, who is the driver in front in the Navy, and Leclerc. But Hughes is all over the back of the ART on lap 2 with the weather closing in, and it's super dramatic stuff at the start of the GP3 season. Exactly what we expected. You can see looking ominous as it has since we started this race, as we go on board with Jack Aitken, the Arden driver, and that wonderful engine note. This is only for 20th place, but he'll be learning with every lap he turns at the wheel of the Arden International car. And Palau is a terrific marker of his speed. So this is probably not going to be for points unless something dramatic happens with the weather, but a really interesting marker of these two who could easily challenge for the championship. But then you could say that about 15 drivers in this field. We're just going to have to watch and see what happens. At the moment, the man that many were betting, and so we're on board with Palau. We've jumped 1 car in front, and can we jump in front of Sandy Stuvig up to 18th place, holding on to it through the final corner, up through the gears. So a little bit of oversteer that he got riding on the curb. These new cars are much more sensitive in terms of ride height setup, and he's getting closer, but he can't draw level. And so you'd expect Palau to be comfortably quicker than Stuvig, given what we've seen previously in their on board with Aitken. Getting closer and closer, but you can see he just can't inch in. Running at the rev limiter at the end of the straight, perhaps. Either way, it's not working at the moment. The weather not close enough, and it's all looking very good indeed if you're ART and Charles Leclerc. Aitken soaring away, trying to look. And to the front then was Charles Leclerc, who took the lead in the first 300 meters of this race, and he has stayed there, comfortably pumping in the lap times. You can tell how comfortable a driver is by the amount of movement he is making on the steering. On the elder driver, Nobuharu Matsushita, also part of the Honda driver, young driver program. And the drivers, as ever, on the lap into the pits, picking up a little bit of extra weight by running offline, picking up the marbles from the GP2 race and this race. Although the tyres did not behave at all like they did last year, where we saw the order completely change. Remember, this race back in 2014 would have only been half an hour long. They extended it in order to see more tyre degradation. We didn't see it. In the GP2 race, we saw the checkered flag waved 1 lap early. And green, so there was confusion all round, but no penalties applied for this race. So the grid is exactly over it. On board with Aitken, who will be looking to perfect the start procedure. Said he had to look at what was wrong, but he did have good pace once he got into the race. Engine from the good people at Mecha Chrome, 3.4 litres, 400 brake horsepower, and best of all, it looks absolutely terrific. Alex Palau saying he needed a bit of luck. Studied the degradation from last year, so they were wary about pushing. Those who were returning to the series were certain the degradation was coming. It's a Campos who rejoined, likely to be Terashenko. Here we are on board with the race winner yesterday, Charles Leclerc, out-dragging his teammate Fukuzumi, who's down in 14th position at the moment. Santino has Jake Hughes in front of us in the dams. And you can see Boschon getting ahead at this stage. But that position has now... We're on board with our race winner yesterday. Started in 8th position, Charles Leclerc. As they head down to turn 5, he's got a Karajan in front of him. He's got another one alongside him. That's Matt Parry trying to go right around the outside, squeezing him out. And the drivers are likely... Oh, he's getting very tightly squeezed to the grass. My word, that was close, but he kept his foot in. And Leclerc has managed to get himself further forward. And Jack Aitken we're on board with at this stage, being out-dragged by Akash Nandi, but not the disaster stalling. And he trying to take the wide line, nowhere to go for Jack Aitken, so having to fall in formation. Got his teammate ahead of him there. And you can see Stuvig in front as well. Looks to have found his feet in this race. He is staring at the final point. Right in front of him, goes offline, trying to force Hughes into an error. So roles reversed from yesterday, when Hughes was putting pressure on Leclerc at this stage of the race. He was getting really close at the end of the pit straight. And now it's a case for the Japanese driver as we go on board with Palau, who's managed to get himself up a position from when we last checked in with him. The man who knows this circuit so well, and he's about to gain another position. Who says thank you very much, and is up to 7 at the front, has managed to take 2/10 out of Oscar Tunjo. It's the middle sector that Tunjo is really struggling to make any impression, comfortably faster than the Thai driver in the first sector of the lap. But there's no clear overtaking opportunity in the first sector of going offline through the opening sector of the lap, and that allowed Leclerc to put real pressure on him into turn 4. And we've seen so many cars go through the gravel trap this weekend of turn 4 that it is very well indeed. On board with Charles Leclerc. You can see he's gaining, but he's only gaining as they get less of the road, as we're on board with the man who's occupying the final podium position at the moment, Antonio Fuoco, on course for his 3rd podium in GP3 as it stands. The man who seemed to be allergic to sprint races last year, crashing out of 3 of them. He was always running within the points, but the contact, really not what he needed at all. Maybe a good year to learn the ropes and to have the silly mistakes though. The closest battle on the track. We're riding on board with the Monegasque driver. His hand off the steering wheel for a moment there, heading in to the important section. You've really got to get turn 7 and 8, the high-speed chicane right. It's about planting your foot and hoping your car has the grip through 9. You can see him gaining, but not enough as he gets to the braking point, and a lock-up. Is this going to give a chance to Leclerc? And that's the problem with that chicane. I always think it needs to be a little bit tighter. You don't want to ruin the flow of a racetrack. But that was an alteration to the circuit they made a few years back to try and create a second behind Hughes in the battle for the final point. You see that played out in front of you with the graphic as Hughes trying to apply pressure, trying to force the error, trying to cause Oscar Tunjo, who is 2nd. Antonio Fuoco takes his 3rd podium. He is in to the circuit as Antonio Fuoco gives them a wave. Wonderful mass of spectators there at turn 1.